This week's Parsha Beshalach sees Israel start their journey to leave Egypt. At some point in time, after having left, Paro was informed that the nation had fled. Upon hearing this report, Paro and his servants seemed to undergo a change of heart and ask themselves, "What is it that we've done? We've sent Israel out from serving us." If Paro and the Egyptian people expelled Israel from within their midst, how is it possible for them to think that Israel had fled? What made Paro even think that Israel should be coming back? The simple understanding is that Paro never changed. With each plague after the peril had passed, Paro had a change of heart and reverted back to his original position, not letting Israel leave. So too after the last plague had hit and subsided, true to form, the peril had passed, and Paro changed his mind about sending out Israel. He had regretted his decision, and after consulting with his advisors, both he and they agreed that they had made a mistake, and they needed to go and bring back Israel. Kli Yakar and Or HaChaim note that Paro used two different terms to describe who fled and who he sent out: the nation and Israel. They both interpret the term the nation to refer to the mixed multitudes, and the term Israel to refer to the children of Israel. From the wording of the verse, they understand that Paro was specifically interested in the report on the mixed multitudes. He had allowed Israel to leave Egypt, but not the mixed multitudes. The mixed multitudes were allowed to accompany Israel to worship God in the desert, but then were supposed to return. But they didn't. They did not return. They continued to wander with Israel in the desert. This was not going according to plan. Even though he had agreed to let Israel leave, Paro craftily thought that he could use the mixed multitudes to help him return Israel to Egypt. Since the mixed multitudes had deviated from his plan, Paro took his armed forces to round them up and then to use them to augment his forces to help bring Israel back to Egypt. Alternatively, Rashi holds that Paro only thought that he had sent Israel out on a 3-day journey into the desert to worship God, and then they would be coming back. On the 4th or 5th day after they left, however, Paro was told that they were not on their way back, but milling about in the desert. He understood by implication that they were not coming back, but actually trying to escape. So he set out after them with his army to bring them back. But hadn't he and the people chased them out from Egypt? Why would he think that Israel was coming back? Throughout the entire time, Paro was under the impression that God's demand was for Israel to leave on a 3-day journey in order to worship God. That was the message when Moshe first appeared before Paro. However, when looking at the Torah, with one exception afterwards, the demand was always, "Send out my nation to worship me." What happened to the 3-day journey as had first been requested? Some might say that it was a necessary ruse to help to fight fire with fire. Paro tricked Israel to enslave them, so God tricked Paro in order to free them. But it is reasonable to say that God does not resort to ruses. Indeed, when looking throughout Tanakh, God tells it as it is. What we can say is that at the very outset, God was willing to be reasonable with Paro. Only send Israel for a 3-day journey, and then they would come back. Afterwards, a new request would be presented. However, by Paro rejecting and disparaging God, and continuing to refuse to accede to God's demands, the ante was upped. The 3-day journey was dropped, and the demand became only, "Let my people go." By deluding himself that the original demand was still in effect, and that the terms were not beyond his control, Paro deceived and outsmarted himself, and in doing so set in motion Yetziat Mitzrayim. Shabbat Shalom.